Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, you all are having a wonderful day today. So, when it comes down to it, I thought that I would review this little video that I found very particularly interesting. And this video is going to be by that of Mr. AKHi TV. And of course, AKHi TV, what we know about him, as I always say about him, is that he is a part of the new media train when it comes down to it. And we do know a certain amount of the narratives that they do like to try and promote. And one of the fighters, of course, that they tried to tear down for a very, very long time, at least ever since that he won the titles over Mr. Vasyl Lomachenko, of course, was that of Teofimo Lopez in order to try and promote that of a Devin Haney and Gervonta Tank Davis within those weight divisions. But Teofimo Lopez, of course, within his last fight against Mr. George Kambosos, he did get upset. Now, in my opinion, I don't think that George Kambosos really should have been a 13-1 or 14-1 underdog the way that he was. I did have him as my personal underdog. I did, favor Teofimo Lopez to win the fight. But I would have said that I probably would have favored Teofimo Lopez somewhere around probably 70-30. And I think that that would have been fair because it still would have been a decent advantage for Teofimo Lopez because I thought basically Teofimo Lopez, I thought that what he was a better version of George Kambosos. They both actually fight very similar. Not either of them are really known for their A-grade defensive responsibility. They like to fight with their hands down. They rely a lot on their counter-punching ability when it comes down to it. And sometimes you can catch them. But George Kambosos, he proved to be the better fighter, at least in that fight against Mr. Teofimo Lopez. Because Teofimo Lopez, I thought, to be honest with you, that he pretty much fought the worst possible fight that he could have fought. His hands were down basically the whole entire time. He had no defensive responsibility whatsoever. George Kambosos had quicker feet. He had much better feet when it came down to it. And on top of that, Teofimo Lopez also did not look like he knew what type of combinations or he did not know how to solve the George Kambosos puzzle throughout the whole entire fight. But long story short when it comes down to it, just to talk about this situation, of course, Teofimo Lopez, before he lost to that of a George Kambosos, he had something to comment about Mr. Deontay Wilder, who, of course, suffered a very bad loss to Tyson Fury within his last couple of fights, both by knockout when it came down to it. And, of course, Deontay Wilder, what we know about him, even though he is, he does have a lot of courage in the ring, and he is a person with a lot of heart, he did make a lot of excuses when it came to the Tyson Fury fight, and I do believe that that is all what they was excuses. But Teofimo Lopez did not come off any better after his most recent loss to George Kambosos Jr., and we do have to hold ourselves to very similar standards or the same standards that we hold others to. So at the end of the day, Teofimo Lopez once again, and Deontay Wilder apparently recently has called Teofimo Lopez a bitch because of his actions, which of course, is basically his way of saying, you called me that when, basically I said something was up with this fight. Now I'm going to call you that when it comes down to it because you were no better than me. And Deontay Wilder has every right to do that because Teofimo Lopez, of course, he did not come off really much better than that of a Deontay Wilder. Now, do I believe that the excuses that Deontay Wilder used were even more unintelligent or more stupid or more unbelievable than that of a Teofimo Lopez? Yes, to be quite honest with you, the Deontay Wilder excuses that he would come up with and his fan base would come up with, like an AKHi TV, I don't think that I've heard any worse excuses in boxing history to maybe why someone lost a fight. But when it came down to it all in all, it just is what it is. But in this video, we're going to be talking about both Mr. Teofimo Lopez and Deontay Wilder. And in my opinion, where their career is going to go forward from here, what do they have to do to improve? And let's get into it.
I look at it as stop complaining about something that many people thought happened last year because of COVID, but it actually happened the beginning of this year. If I'm calling someone it's just because you are acting like one. You are acting like one. No one cares about how you feel, Deontay. No one does. Even if you put it out there. Oh man, I feel bad that you got a dent on your head. No. This is the fight game. This is war. This is a man's sport.
Like I said, when it comes down to it, there was no legitimate dent in Deontay Wilder's head. You can go ahead and take a look at the fight for yourself against Tyson Fury. They can say all this bullshit all they want to about, the doctor approved of it. There's a lot of these fighters, once again, like Teofimo Lopez. He just recently said that his doctor apparently approved that there was air in his chest and all sort of bullshit. But I'm not believing that. I'm sorry. It just is what it is.
And if you're looking for closure and if you're looking for comfort, you're not going to get it here. And if anything, people are going to criticize you for it.
So, after Deontay Wilder revealed that his doctor informed him that he suffered a dent in his skull post-Tyson Fury rematch, Teofimo
Which he did not.
Lopez immediately came...
Look at this dent in his head. There was no dent in Deontay Wilder's head that actually looked like that. Go ahead and take a look at him in the interviews. Come on, man.
out telling Deontay Wilder...
Every time they show a picture of this, the dent is always in it. Like, that was literally on the cheekbone. Before, it was someone on the temple. So where is this hole in the head?
to stop being the B word. Teofimo Lopez went as far as stating that I would call Deontay Wilder the B word to his face. Stop making excuses nobody can.
And it is what it is. You know, once again, Deontay Wilder, you know, very courageous fighter. You know, a lot of heart. But he was acting like a grade A biatch. It just is what it is. But of course, so is Mr. Teofimo Lopez. So, Teofimo Lopez, he had the right overall to share his opinion. But like I said, you know, you have to hold yourself to a very similar standard. Otherwise, you're no better than being a hypocrite. Which is exactly overall what Teofimo Lopez ended up being.
Cares, just move on. In addition to that, Teo told Wilder, stop complaining and get in the ring with Fury again. Even though that's exactly what Deontay Wilder was trying to do. However, Tyson Fury had other plans. The AJ Undisputed fight, so on and so forth. It ain't no secret. Fury was avoiding the Deontay Wilder trilogy at all costs. Which is exactly why Deontay...
So I've got some bad news for you. You're losing your hair, but I've also got some good news. Bosley can help fix it.
Which is exactly why Deontay Wilder had to take Tyson Fury to mediation, then arbitration, just to land the trilogy. Nevertheless, ironically, a year later, Teofimo Lopez loses to George Kambosos.
You notice also, when it comes to Deontay Wilder, these guys were a legend the whole entire time. And I have so many videos on this when it comes down to, if you guys want to review some of my older videos, because that's really the topic that I was talking about to really kind of get my new channel out there within like the past year and a half. It was mainly about the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder conversation and how allegedly Deontay got cheated. And once again, I never believed any of this bullshit. You know, now a certain amount of more of my conversations, they may pertain to Canelo or Terrence Bud Crawford or, you know, pretty much, you know, similar boxing news. But when it comes down to it, you know, a lot of the times, like I said, I talk about any conversation that interests me. So, you know.
Claims he won 11 rounds to 2. Then his father claims it was a robbery. But peep this, on top of that, they don't want the rematch.
But like I said, it's interesting because they claim that Deontay, that, oh, you know, all of the greats overall came back. You know, Sugar Ray Robinson, he suffered losses and he came back. Muhammad Ali came back. But all of a sudden, Deontay Wilder, he lost to Tyson Fury. And all of a sudden, Deontay Wilder is no longer this all-time great fighter in their opinion. All of a sudden, now what do they say? Well, Tyson Fury has never beat a complete fighter. So, as Dante would say, let me not, you know, I'll take it overall, you know, I guess for this video. But as Dante's Boxing Nation would say, we know what time it is. We know overall, you know, why they're doing that, why they're saying that. Why all of a sudden they threw Deontay Wilder completely under the bus just so they could basically discredit Tyson Fury. So it is what it is.
With George Kambosos. So in this case, who is really the B word? And to put ice on...
Well, both of them overall were acting like a Class A biatch. It just is what it is. Teofimo Lopez, at the end of the day, he's probably very, very upset because I think that was a very winnable fight for Teofimo Lopez. And Teofimo Lopez, he's going to have to live with that loss for the rest of his career. It just is what it is. The big question about Teofimo Lopez that I have is how well is he going to do at 140 pounds? Because no one is a joke within that division. You know, I don't necessarily think that they're as talented as a Terrence Bud Crawford or Errol Spence Jr. But Josh Taylor, Regis Prograis, Jose Ramirez, you know, Montana Love, you know, even the Jose Zepedas and the Victor Postals, all those guys are decently competitive fighters. Maybe even the Jose Pedrazas, if you want to also mention him. None of those fighters are, you know, C-class fighters in my opinion. Teofimo Lopez is going to have to watch out for every single one of them.
On the cake, Teofimo Lopez had his doctor come out and say that Teo fought with air in his chest. His lungs could have exploded, which makes you wonder, does that have something to do with the hookah he was smoking? Now, I told Teofimo Lopez a year ago that...
From what I heard, air bubbles in the chest, it's mainly overall used to cause the smoking marijuana if you're, especially a common smoker of marijuana, but which of course, I certainly would not, entertain or prescribe at all. I've never been a person that's a huge smoker, a huge drinker, or anything like that. I've never actually smoked marijuana. I've never actually even touched alcohol. In my past overall, I've, smoked some cigarettes or cigars here and there, but of course, I don't recommend that for anyone, when it comes down to it, because of course it's not healthy for you. But when it comes down to it, all in all, what I will say is this: I don't believe that the hookah, all in all, is what allegedly, anyway, caused air in the chest with Teofimo. I'm not sure if I'm believing, all in all, that he had air in the chest anyway. Teofimo didn't look to me like he was really physically impaired to me. I mean, he looked like maybe he was a bit drained, but all in all, I just think Teofimo Lopez, I just think all in all that he showed a very, very poor performance.
The only thing that's the B word is karma, because karma is the B word. Fast forward a year later, Tio went from the takeover to the game over. In a blink of an eye, Tio went from calling Deontay Wilder the B word and making fun of Deontay Wilder's doctor, claiming Wilder had a dented skull, to all of a sudden now being a sore loser.
Like I said, there was no actual x-rays, there was no actual pictures, all in all, that have showed consistency. Like I said, one moment the dent is there in the cheekbone, and another moment overall it's above the ear, in the what is it called, the temple. They've literally showed you multiple pictures. So where is this dent, man? Is it in the cheek? Is it in is it in all, the temple? I mean, goddamn.
Himself, even coming out with a doctor note as an excuse. And what makes it more ironic,
that's why these channels especially can't be trusted. Like I said, they're nothing but a pro-black cult. I mean, take a look at how far they literally will take the excuses. And AKHi TV, he's one of the worst of them.
is the hypocrisy by Mark Kriegel, who trashed Deontay Wilder's doctor for the dent excuse, even though Wilder's skull looks visibly dented.
That's not a real picture. Or that's not overall a real dent, all in all, to where basically, it is super indented when it comes down to it. Like I said, go ahead and take a look at Deontay Wilder when it comes down to it, even after the fight. There's no dent overall that looks anything like those pictures. Nothing.
Wow. Mark Kriegel is praising Teofimo Lopez for his excuses he came out with when he lost to George Kambosos. I mean, the irony of it all. On one hand, Deontay Wilder is a sore loser. On the other hand, Teofimo Lopez...
They're both sore losers. It is what it is. And unfortunately, most athletes, because they have a very high level of confidence, so that means that they have a very big ego, they're more than likely going to be sore losers. The majority of athletes out there, unfortunately, they are sore losers. Some people handle their losses better than some. But of course, especially in the sport of boxing, I've seen many, many boxers make excuses. It just is what it is. Deontay Wilder's one of those guys. Manny Pacquiao is one of those guys. I'm trying to think of who else. Teofimo Lopez, as opposed. There's another, Guillermo Rigondeaux. Guillermo Rigondeaux is another one. When he lost to Lomachenko, he quit in that fight, all in all, when he could have went on. But instead, he didn't want to get embarrassed anymore, so he quit. Overall, he went out overall like a biatch in that fight. And there's no offense against Guillermo Rigondeaux, but he quit because all in all, he basically could not handle the adversity of a Vasily Lomachenko. And we figured out something about Guillermo Rigondeaux that day. And don't get me wrong, I have a lot of respect for Guillermo Rigondeaux. All right, he's a great fighter. But you don't quit in the middle of a fight, all in all, when, you're still somewhat in the fight just because you don't want to get embarrassed. And then he blamed it on, he broke his left knuckle. Bullshit. It is what it is.
Is a warrior.
And I'm not saying that you have to overall go out like a Deontay Wilder in the Tyson Fury trilogy. I've never been one of these people that says you need to go out there and get your ass kicked just to prove that you have a great amount of heart. But if you went out all in all like a Guillermo Rigondeaux, like the way that he did against Vasily Lomachenko, I mean, I'm sorry. That really shows me overall about the true amount of heart that you have, all in all, or the true amount of, toughness that you have when it comes to adversity. Because all Guillermo Rigondeaux did was quit in that fight.
For making excuses and coming out...
And it's not even like it was a Nicholas Walters or Jorge Linares situation where they were getting punched with legitimately hard shots. Because Guillermo Rigondeaux, he was getting punched, but there was no punches in that fight that I remember that, were super duper flush or, super duper landing on him to where, Guillermo Rigondeaux had to quit in the fashion that he did. He just didn't want to get embarrassed.
With doctor notes, according to Mark Kriegel, completely ignoring Teofimo Lopez smoking hookah like he's not an athlete. Therefore, to all of the Teo fans, keep the same energy. Don't flip. Don't be as biased as Mark Kriegel.
Well, I agree. You should keep the same energy and don't flip. And I know that I'm keeping the same energy. The big question, Mr. AKHi, is that are you keeping the same energy? Because according to you, Deontay Wilder's excuses, they were fully, okay. But Teofimo Lopez's excuse, oh no, they're not okay. Like I said, we already know what that's about. But it is what it is.
And I said what I said about Wilder is not to discredit anything about the man, as his manhood. I'm not saying anything about that. All I'm talking about is in the boxing, nobody's going to care about what happened. You lost, whatever happened, happened. You know what I mean? Move on.
A few moments later.
Fighter, but I won tonight, man. And everybody know that. The referee raised my hand. I won tonight. I don't care what anybody says, yo. I won tonight. Hey, at the end of the day, I've been here. I've done that. I want to thank God. I want to thank everybody that came out tonight. Look, I ain't no sore loser. I take my wins like I take my losses.
Yeah, you ain't no sore loser. But you won 11 rounds to 2 in a 12-round fight.
I know what it is. I know how these people work. Referee knew I won tonight. Everybody knew I won tonight.
And Teofimo Lopez knows that he didn't win that shit. He knows that he didn't win that shit. Because after the fight, he, like I said, when fighters lose, especially, what do they always say? Oh, well, all in all, family is all that matters. And I got a newborn son or a newborn daughter, that I got to... That's what they always say. That's what Cody Garbrandt said after he got his ass kicked against CJ Dillashaw. That's basically the, I want to hide my crippling pain that I have right now inside. It just is what it is. And I get it, whatever. But at the end of the day, got to move on. I know it's going to hurt. It is what it is. But, you got to move on and try to put your best foot forward there from now on. Because in my opinion, Teofimo Lopez, I don't think that he took George Kambosos too seriously.
I don't believe it was a close fight at all. I believe that at the end of it all, I scored 11-2. Well, 10-2.
Get the out of here, man. Please.
Well, Sergio, you heard Kambosos say to Lopez, you're
Get the out of here, man. Please.
Well, Sergio, you heard Kambosos say to Lopez, you're delusional. I think the telling moment was when Teofimo Lopez said, listen, everyone knows I won this fight. 90% of the people here were cheering for Lopez coming in. They all booed him after he said that.
Teofimo Lopez, I hate to kick a man while he's down. But at the end of the day, I got to call a spade a spade. And the irony of it all, what goes around, come back around. They say...
I hate to kick a man while he's down. Aki, you know damn well that that's not true. You are smiling from ear to ear to try and tear down Teofimo Lopez. But it is what it is. At the end of the day, like I said, what goes around comes around. If you're going to call someone else a bitch, or all in all, if you're going to say that they're making bitch-ass excuses, when you lose your fight, you don't make excuses.
Karma is the B word, right? And that's exactly what it is, because Teofimo Lopez, he called Deontay Wilder the B word. He said Deontay Wilder is the B word for making excuses. Nobody cares. Just take your L like a man and come back another day. Even though that was really what Deontay Wilder was doing. Meanwhile...
No, he wasn't. Deontay Wilder was acting like a little bitch, too. It just is what it is. And like I said, I have respect for anyone who gets in the ring. But Deontay Wilder's making some biatch-ass excuses. It just is what it is. Same with Teofimo Lopez. Alright?
Teofimo Lopez lost...
And like I said, Deontay Wilder made some of the worst excuses that I personally ever heard. Oh, there was egg whites in the glove. Oh, someone poisoned my water. When it comes down to with no alleged proof whatsoever. And then, what was some of the other one? Oh yeah, this one. This was a grand one. This was the best of them all. Oh, that 40-pound suit, wore me down. It wore down my legs. Like, are you kidding me? Like, come on, man. You got to come up with better excuses than that. And then Tyson Fury, and the Kronk Gym, they would always ask him the same, question. If I really did put egg in my glove, or if I fucked with my gloves, JD's was the one that watched me, wrap my hands. How come all in all, you still have JD's in your corner, but you fired Mark Breland? He never could answer that question. You know why? Because Deontay Wilder's a dingbat. It is what it is. Or he knew all in all that he truly did not get cheated. So it is what it is. Like I said, and I posted videos like this, many, many months ago, and I said Deontay Wilder is living a lie. And I had these Deontay Wilder fans in my comment section, like Watcher, that one idiot Australian when it comes down to it. Go ahead and take a look at his channel, see how much of a Deontay Wilder fanboy he is. But anyways, when it comes down to it, like I said, I had all these Deontay Wilder fans tell me, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. And then look what happened. Anyway.
Kambosos made all of the excuses in the world, from his lungs almost blowing up and him having injuries, so on and so forth. All of that is really hard to believe because he was smoking hookah leading up to the fight. If I see you smoking hookah, I'm already doubting your dedication to the sport. I made a video on this. You guys can check it out. I'm going to leave it in the comment section below. I said hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work as hard. So, while...
And in my opinion, that's what happened in this George Kambosos versus Teofimo Lopez fight. Because in my opinion, Teofimo Lopez... But in terms of skills, who knows? I don't know. Maybe George Kambosos, maybe he just is all around the better fighter. Because Teofimo Lopez, he put on one of the shittiest performances that I've ever seen by a fighter, all in all, that, overall had a very good performance over an A-grade fighter. He was able to beat Lomachenko. A lot of people, of course, will go on the narrative of, oh, well, when Lomachenko was really starting to let his hands go, he was starting to get exposed. Well, maybe a little bit, but still, Teofimo, with his skills and with his size, he was able to outbox Lomachenko, at least able to out-game plan him. So that was the reason why he won that fight. But even Teofimo against other fighters like a Richard Kamei or Nakatani, and he had a lot of problems with Nakatani, but I've seen Teofimo Lopez look much better than what he did in that George Kambosos fight. He had no defense, no speed in his footwork when it came down to it. He had no idea overall how to guard George Kambosos' combinations, even though he was throwing the same shit over and over and over again. I mean, Teofimo, he looked so lackluster in that fight.
Teofimo Lopez was out partying, drinking, smoking hookah. Guess what Kambosos was doing? He was training, sleeping, shitting, and breathing boxing. Meanwhile, Teofimo Lopez was smoking hookah. And then when you hear the excuses, you almost can't believe it, because right after the fight, he said he beat Kambosos. He said it was a robbery.
And that's why it's going to be very interesting to see where Teofimo Lopez goes from here. Is he another Jermaine Taylor, Andrew Ruiz Jr., Buster Douglas? Is he another one of these guys? Or is he a person that is going to turn his career around? And to be quite honest with you, I doubt it. And a certain amount of people may say, well, why do you say that? Because he can't make 135 anymore. He's going to be facing 140-pounders that are very similar in size to him and probably may even be more skilled than him, especially after that fight that I've seen against George Kambosos. I've heard a rumor through the grapevine that there's a potential fight between him and Montana Love next. I don't think Teofimo Lopez would win that fight. Maybe if he can catch Montana Love, because Montana Love, what he reminds me of, he's like a lesser version and a smaller version, in my opinion, of a Jaron Boots Ennis. Very decent fighter, very slick, very, now his power is deceiving. Jaron Boots Ennis, of course, has the much better knockout record. When you take a look at Montana Love, he don't have, I think he has like maybe a little bit over a 50% knockout record. But when it comes down to it, he does have good power. Like if Montana Love versus Teofimo Lopez were to happen next, very, very dangerous fight.
11 rounds to 2. That's what Teofimo Lopez said. He didn't say I had lung problems. He didn't say I had an injury. He didn't say none of that. So the point that I'm making is Teofimo Lopez.
That's another thing that Deontay Wilder said that I forgot about. Oh, I had a lot going on before this fight, and, my legs were wore down, all this other bullshit. Shit, Deontay Wilder was pulling 72 excuses out of his ass. Same thing with Teofimo, though.
Lopez, the B word, for making excuses, because what he went off on Deontay Wilder about is the exact same thing he's doing today. We know Wilder got cheated. What's your excuse?
We know Wilder got cheated. No, Wilder didn't get cheated. He cheated himself. He cheated himself because Deontay Wilder is not that intelligent of a boxer. And all in all, he just does not have the ability of a Tyson Fury. It is what it is.
He called Lomachenko a sore loser. Well, guess what?
And Lomachenko was a sore loser after that fight. Lomachenko is another one who made excuses.
He's doing the same thing Lomachenko is doing times 10. Why make excuses? Like Teofimo Lopez told Deontay Wilder, nobody cares. Get yourself off the ground and get your L back. It's not a loss, it's a lesson, right?
Well, I agree all in all with what you're saying, AKHi TV, but the thing overall with you is this. You know, basically when it comes to Deontay Wilder or any fighter that you like, the excuses are perfectly okay. But when it comes to a fighter that you don't like a Teofimo Lopez, or let's say like so Canelo Alvarez, he were to lose his next fight, there would be no excuses for them. At the end of the day, I'm not saying that, you know, Teofimo Lopez, that excuses are good, because of course they're not. But this is why I'm saying these channels, they never keep the same energy, especially with certain fighters. Like I said, it's very, very clear overall what their agenda is.
That's what Teofimo Lopez used to say.
But at the end of the day, with Mr. Teofimo Lopez, he has a lot to figure out about himself. He has a lot to figure out about his career. Like I said, is he going to end up as another Jermaine Taylor? If I had to guess, probably. But we'll see what happens.
If Deontay Wilder is the B word for wanting his revenge after getting cheated, what is Teofimo Lopez?
He didn't get cheated, AKHi, but you're a fucking idiot anyway, so I mean, it don't really matter.
Because he lost, claimed the robbery, and doesn't even want a rematch.
You know, I said all in all that Dante's Boxing Nation, you know, I said that he has about 2 brain cells, 2 marbles rolling around up in that skull of his. I think AKHi TV has about half a marble in there. He don't even have a full marble up there. This dude is the biggest idiot, and I don't think all in all that there's even a close second. AKHi TV is the biggest dope that I've ever personally seen talk about boxing. Every take that this man almost has, it's almost completely 100% off.
Hello.
That's why he was so wrong on the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder situation.
Anybody home? What was your take on Teofimo Lopez calling Deontay Wilder the B word? But we know Deontay Wilder came back to get his revenge, win or lose at the end of the day. He was man enough to want his lick back in blood. Obviously, he wasn't the same no more.
Well, what I'll say is this, because certain people overall, they say, well, Teofimo, he's ducking the George Kambosos rematch. I don't think he's necessarily ducking the rematch, and that's not me, you know, trying to stick up for Teofimo Lopez necessarily, or me trying to, you know, just protect him. But what that is me saying is this. I think that Teofimo somewhat wants that George Kambosos rematch. I just don't think he can do it, because I think he understands that he just can't fight at 135 anymore. He just can't do it. He completely would drain himself, and I don't know if George Kambosos, I highly doubt that he would rematch Teofimo Lopez at 140 right now. If that rematch were to happen, it probably is going to have to happen probably about a year later on down the line. That's assuming that George Kambosos maybe loses to one of the big boys, and I'm talking about one of the A-grade fighters at 135, because in my opinion, he more than likely will. A certain amount of people, I don't know, they'll disagree. I don't think he beats Lomachenko, Devin Haney, or what's his name, Gervonta Tank Davis. I'm not sure if he beats any of those guys. He may have a better chance over Devin Haney or Vasyl Lomachenko, because Vasyl Lomachenko, even for how skilled he is a person that does not have A-grade punch resistance for the 135-pound division. And on top of that, he is a person that is decently, you know, somewhat outsized by a little bit anyway, because he is a person with only a 65.5-inch reach. And Devin Haney and George Kambosos, they fight very similar. But Devin Haney, in my opinion, he throws more often. And in my opinion, he's probably a little bit slicker than that of a George Kambosos. So we'll see where Mr. George Kambosos goes. It would be interesting to see him shake up the 135-pound division and surprise me, but I just doubt it.
So much punishment in the second fight, he was no longer the same. I truly believe.
Look at Deontay Wilder. Boy, he's like, God damn. Man, overall looks like he's possessed in that picture. He's like, shit. But if you want to overall look at the dent, take a look at the swellingness of Deontay Wilder's left ear right there. Because, of course, that's the position where it's his left ear. That was the alleged dent in his head. There never was an alleged dent in the skull. It is what it is. And, of course, what did AKHi TV just say? He said, well, I truly believe that Deontay Wilder was never the same. But you were talking all that shit coming into this third match. You said that Deontay Wilder, all in all, was going to knock Tyson Fury out. What happened to that prediction? You know, like I said, this dude is so full of shit. But, you know, I saw this coming from a mile away. If you've seen this, if you've seen my own videos that I was posting over earlier this year about the excuse that they were going to make if Tyson Fury were to win the third fight, which is exactly what happened. And they were going to say, well, he was never the same, because Dante's Boxing Nation, he was kind of hinting at that all in all throughout many of his videos. So I said that's the exact excuse that he's going to make, and I was right on the money.
At the end of the day, Teofimo said he's the B word. A year later, he loses to Kambosos and makes all the excuses in the world. He claims it's a robbery, but doesn't want a rematch. So is Teofimo Lopez the B word? just like he called Deontay Wilder.
Well, overall, what I'll say is this. I'm not going to overall, say that Deontay Wilder or Teofimo Lopez, I'm not going to call anyone that goes into the ring when it comes down to the overall a bitch. I'm not going to say that because at the end of the day, I'm not the one going in there risking my health and overall risking my legacy. At the end of the day, these boxers do deserve respect. But Deontay Wilder and Teofimo Lopez, they are overall making some bitch ass excuses. It just is what it is.
Or is it even worse? Because he don't even want the rematch.
No, Deontay Wilder's excuses were worse. I don't think that there's any doubt about that. Deontay Wilder's excuses, they're some of the worst excuses that I personally ever heard. Egg weights in the glove, and there's a dent in my skull, even though there was no proof whatsoever. The suit wore me down, like literally a ring walkout suit. But yet, you thought that it was heavy. You must have thought that it was heavy overall, before going into the ring because, you decided to try it out a day before. Go ahead, check the news. And then on top of that, my trainer that I've been with for years upon years upon years, Mark Breland, he poisoned me. Like, come on, bro. Are you kidding me?
In your comment box, I've been...
At least Teofimo Lopez only had like one excuse. Now, excuses at the end of the day are still excuses. It's not good to make excuses. But, I mean, Deontay Wilder's excuses, they're on a whole nother level from what I've ever seen.
Calling she a female, a lot. And, no disrespect to him. I ain't trying to say one.
Teofimo. Yeah, and I've heard a certain amount of these guys call him that for the past year because, like I said, these guys, they don't like him, but it is what it is. But I've heard nicknames for Deontay Wilder, too. The main nickname I hear for him is Mr. Beyonce Wilder, but it is what it is. Whatever.
Thing, but I'm talking about his character. I agree with you. I think it's like what Malcolm X said. It's a case of the chickens coming home to roost.
Well, in terms of their character, it is what it is. Like I said, great athletes especially, they always make excuses. It is what it is. Or they're sore losers. Once again, Peyton Manning, when he lost to the New Orleans Saints all the way back in that 2009-2010 Super Bowl, he would not even at first shake Drew Brees' hand because he was so upset. It's understandable to agree. I get it. Because you're trying to accomplish greatness. I get it. But at the end of the day, you got to move on. And I know that that's easy for me to say because I'm not the one overall that's losing in a fight, that's affecting my legacy, affecting my image and all this sort of stuff. But, at the end of the day, you do got to try your best to just move on and all in all try to do better next time. And both Deontay Wilder and Teofimo Lopez, they're both in a very similar situation.
When Deontay Wilder, like you said, he at least stepped up.
Check this out. I'm going to show you how I afforded this car. Okay, you ready? All right,
He at least stepped up. But he lost. You know what I mean? He tried again, and everybody considers him a warrior. They would say the same of Teofimo. I can't even say his name. Teo. They would say the same of him if he would just take the L, go out, like you said, dust it off, get the composure back, and win. Even if he lost 6 more times, you know what we would say? We would say he's a warrior. I look at guys like Danny Garcia. I'd be like, I didn't like Danny Garcia at first. I used to hate Danny Garcia. But now...
No one liked Danny Garcia. And if Danny Garcia was still undefeated, people would still hate Danny Garcia. The reason why people like Danny Garcia now is because he's pretty much fought everyone. And overall, he took a couple losses. But if he was still undefeated or if he was one of the top 10 pound-per-pound fighters, people would still hate his ass. People hated Danny Garcia.
I'm like, man, Danny Garcia, he done fought everybody. I got much respect for him. Much respect for Tom Porter.
And Danny Garcia has come up with a couple excuses as well. Well, I guess all in all, if you want to say that Danny believes that he's won debatably a couple of those fights, like against Keith Thurman and Sean Porter. They were competitive, but I just, I don't know if you want to call those excuses, and I guess just in my opinion, I don't think Danny did enough to win those fights, even though they were somewhat competitive. But one thing I will say is this: Danny Garcia, at least for the Errol Spence fight, the only fight in his career that he 100% clearly lost, and it was not even really that competitive. I didn't hear him make any excuses for that fight, so I'll give Danny Garcia that much credit.
I would say the same for Teo. But I don't think he like that. I don't think he not from that cloth. They from this new era. And this new era ain't got that type of feel. They ain't got that cloth that's just warriors. And that's why they just on Instagram talking and not fight. That's my take on it, my brother.
We ran a digital thing the other day. The ties of
Oh, man, they're from the new era that, you know, they're not from that cloth. Listen, there's some old bitch-ass fighters as well that refuse to fight people or didn't want to have a rematch with people. It just is what it is. It's been going around for years upon years. This is nothing new.
changed a bit, George. More and more and more people think that you're going to win this fight. What do you put that down to?
I'm preparing. People see how hungry I am. You know, they're not dumb. And they can see how he is. They can see his whole charisma. Kid's not focused. He's distracted like crazy. He's missing sessions left, right, and center. 2 weeks ago, he's out partying and drinking.
And that's why, in my opinion, George Kambosos, he probably would have been the underdog 7-1. I thought that Teofimo Lopez, I thought that he was going to be a little bit too talented for George Kambosos, even with Teofimo being a little bit distracted or him maybe overall having a little bit of a layoff. But Teofimo had one of the worst performances that I've seen by debatable A-grade talent, you know, overall in a very, very long time. At least when Deontay Wilder lost to Tyson Fury, you could tell overall that he's just better in pretty much every category, you know, according to Deontay Wilder. Teofimo really fucked up, and that's why, in my opinion, you know, this demon, overall, George Kambosos Jr., or what I mean by that is that, you know, the demon of him losing that fight, it is going to haunt him forever. It's kind of like when Steph Curry, when he choked away the 2016 NBA Finals. The Cavaliers and Golden State Warriors are on a very similar playing field, but if you would have won that 2016 NBA Finals, you would have been thought of on a different level than what you are today. You know, even though Steph, of course, is still held to a very high level. But, you know, that fight, I don't care how many fights Teofimo Lopez wins, that fight is going to haunt him forever.
And I said it. 1% catch up, kid, and you'll learn the hard way. Now, there's going to be a lot of excuses. I see it. I know there's going to be a lot of excuses after this fight. The COVID, he's got asthma, his lungs. You know, we want one round to finish off Kambosos because they're not ready for the next 11. There's going to be a lot of excuses, but...
Hey, hell of a fighter, but I won tonight, man. And everybody know that. The referee raised my hand. I won tonight. I don't care what anybody says, yo.
As soon as Teofimo Lopez said they won that fight, everyone was like, get the hell out of here. Damn, and that was in his hometown of Brooklyn, I believe. Damn.
I won tonight. Hey, at the end of the day, I've been here, I've done that. I want to thank God. I want to thank everybody that came out tonight. Look, I ain't no sore loser. I take my wins like I take my losses. At the end of the day, man, I'm a true champion. I came out here, I did what I had to do, and I went out there and I did my best. Yo, I don't care what anybody says, man. I am as real as they come.
You know who the hell is another sore loser, at least as of lately? Mr. Conor McGregor. For those of you overall that haven't seen his fights lately with Mr. Dustin Poirier, probably had one of the most hilarious sayings overall after he lost to Dustin Poirier in that trilogy. Your wife is in me DMs. Overall, I can't do a great accent at the current moment, but Conor's fucking crazy, man.
Watch, this is the takeover, man. We don't stop, we keep coming. Yo, at the end of the day, man, I love you all. I won this fight.
Teofimo, you believe coming in that you were going to be able to end this fight early. You get knocked down in the first round. What was your mindset going back to the corner?
It's good. Good shot. All right. Time to wake up. Time to do the thing what I got to do. After that, man, it is what it is. It's boxing. But you know what, man? I know what it is. I know how these people work. Referee knew I won tonight. Everybody knew I won tonight. And I'm just thankful.
Did you believe...
You're thankful for what? Getting your ass kicked? How can you win a fight when you didn't land more than the other guy? You didn't throw more than the other guy. You didn't land the better power punches than the other guy. You were scared to exchange with him half the time because he was boxing your face off. It just is what it is.
Sergio, you heard Kambosos say to Lopez, you're delusional. I think the telling moment was when Teofimo Lopez said, listen, everyone knows I won this fight. 90% of the people here were cheering for Lopez coming in. They all booed him after he said that.
But anyways, that's really about it for today. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you all later.